In this video, I'm in Tokyo to figure out why Japanese toilets are so much better and what they can teach us about design. Come with me. Every city has public toilets. Most of us only notice them when we need to use them. They're difficult to find, they don't feel particularly inviting, and if we're honest, we usually try to avoid them altogether. That's what made this project so interesting to me. A few years ago, Tokyo decided to rethink something most cities barely think about at all. Not a museum, not a landmark, a public toilet. They invited some of Japan's most celebrated architects and designers to redesign 17 public restrooms across Shibuya. At first, that sounds almost ridiculous. Why ask architects like Shigeru Ban, Kengo Kuma, Tadao Ando, and Toyo Ito to design public toilets? When I first heard about the project, I assumed it was mostly about beautiful architecture. So while I was in Tokyo, I decided to visit every single one. 17 toilets. By the end of the day, I realized I had been asking the wrong question. This project isn't really about toilets. It's about what happens when a city believes even its smallest buildings deserve great design. And maybe that's why they feel so different. The first stop is probably the most recognizable design in the entire project, Shigeru Ban's transparent restrooms. I'll be honest, standing outside a completely transparent public restroom feels wrong. Every instinct tells you not to walk in. I stood there for a few moments watching other people use it before finally convincing myself to try it. The moment I locked the door, the glass turned opaque. Instantly. It's surprisingly satisfying. Then it hit me. The project wasn't trying to impress people with technology. It was solving two very ordinary problems. Is the restroom clean? Is someone already inside? Normally, you only find out after opening the door. Here you know before you even step inside. That tiny moment changes how you approach the building. You hesitate less, you trust it more, and the word trust keep coming back throughout my visit. Every architect approached it differently. After seeing Shigeru Ban's transparent restrooms, I expected every project to be equally dramatic. Kengo Kuma's was the complete opposite. In fact, I walked right past it the first time. Surrounded by trees in Nabashima Shoto Park, it blends into the landscape. Instead of designing one large building, Kuma divided the program into 5 smaller pavilions connected by outdoor paths. Cedar louvers wrap each structure, while reclaimed wood soften the interiors. It's one of the largest toilets in the entire project, yet it feels like it belongs there. It doesn't compete with the park around it. A few parks away, interior designer Masamichi Katayama explored the same challenge from a completely different direction. Rather than blending into the landscape, his restroom design invites you to walk through it. 15 concrete walls create a loose maze that slowly guides visitors towards the toilet. There's no obvious front door, there's no single facade. You discover the building as you move through it. By this point, I had already visited several toilets, and I started noticing something. The architects and designers weren't trying to design the world's most beautiful public toilet. they were trying to change how people felt before they even walk inside. Shigeru Ban built trust through transparency. Kengo Kuma made the building blends in. Katayama turns the journey to the toilet into part of the experience. Different designers and architects, different ideas. The same question. How do you make an ordinary public restroom feel welcoming? As I continue walking across Shibuya, that question keeps coming back. Toyo Ito answered the same question differently, by creating 3 separate restrooms at the foot of the path leading to Yoyogi Hachiman Shrine. His tree mushroom design uses circulation space between the structures to make the site easy to navigate. There are no hidden corners. Clear sightlines make the space feel safe before you even step inside. Accessibility isn't tucked away in a separate room. It's built into the entire experience. Now Tamura explored the same idea from a different perspective. Her folded red walls created individual spaces inspired by the origata, the Japanese tradition of decorative gift wrapping. What interested me wasn't just the architecture, it was the intention behind it. She wasn't designing for an average user. She was asking how a public restroom could make people from different backgrounds, identities, and abilities all feel equally welcome. Fumihiko Maki's pavilion feels less like a restroom and more like part of the playground next to it. Parents can comfortably wait outside while children use the facilities. Natural light fills the interior, nothing feels hidden. Even Tadao Ando's circular design encourages movement rather than creating barriers. Light, wind, and the people all flows through the building. By now, I realized these architects and designers weren't competing to create iconic buildings. They were solving the same problem from completely different directions. How do you make people feel comfortable using a public restroom? At first, I thought the answer was architecture. Then I learned something that completely changed how I saw the project. Most public toilets in Shibuya are cleaned once a day. The Tokyo toilets are cleaned 3 times every day. That might sound like a small detail. It's probably the most important design decision in the entire project. No matter how beautiful a building is, people won't use it if they don't trust that it's clean. The architecture invites people in, the maintenance gives them the reason to come back. You notice it immediately. The floors are clean, the fixtures work, nothing feels neglected. It's easy to think of maintenance as something that happens after the building is finished. Here, it feels like part of the architecture itself. The designers created a space people want to use, the city committed to taking care of them. Without both, I don't think this project would have become what it is today. By this point, I've already visited more than a dozen toilets. Something unexpected started happening. I stopped comparing toilets. Instead, I started paying attention to what was happening around them. These places weren't just functioning as restrooms. They were becoming part of everyday life. That seems to be one of the biggest ambitions behind this project. Not simply designing better toilets, designing better public spaces. Some architects explore that ideas in subtle ways. Others push it surprisingly far. One of the boldest experiments is Hi Toilet, designed by creative director Kazu Sato. Almost every function is controlled by your voice. The idea came from observing how uncomfortable people are touching surfaces in public restrooms. Long before the pandemic, the project was already asking how technology could make these spaces feel cleaner and more approachable. When I finally tried it, "Hi toilet," it didn't work. Maybe it was out of service, maybe I wasn't speaking loud enough. Either way, I walk away thinking the same thing. The experiment was more interesting than the experience. And honestly, I think that's okay. A project like this needs room to fail. Innovation rarely happens without a few ideas that didn't quite work. Just a few miles away, So Fujimoto took the opposite approach. Instead of adding more technology, he stripped the idea back to something incredibly simple: water. His project, Vessels and Fountain, is organized around a large communal hand-washing basin. People gather there whether they're using the restroom or not. Some wash their hands, some refill a water bottle, some simply stop for a moment before moving on. The toilet quietly becomes part of the public space instead of hiding behind it. That same thinking appears again in With Toilet, designed by the University of Tokyo. The building combines a public restroom with a flexible community space that can become an exhibition, a neighborhood information center, or a place for local events. It's a simple question: why should a public toilet only be a public toilet? Then there's Monumentum, designed by Tomohito Ushiro. During the day, it's almost understated. At night, it comes alive. Thousands of unique lighting patterns illuminate the structure, and no two evenings are ever exactly the same. It's less about helping people find a restroom. It's about encouraging people to notice a building they would normally ignore. By the end of the day, I realized something. The most successful toilets in this project aren't necessarily the most dramatic. They're the ones that quietly become part of everyday life. They don't ask people to admire them. They invite people to use them. And that's what great public architecture is supposed to do. Before coming to Japan, I bought this book about the Tokyo Toilet Project. I expected it to be a collection of interesting architecture, and in many ways, it is. You have some of Japan's most celebrated architects and designers working on one of the smallest building types. That alone makes the project remarkable. But after visiting all 17 toilets, I don't think the architecture is what stayed with me. What stayed with me was the care put into the design, the care put into maintenance, the care put into making every visitor feel welcome. At the beginning of this trip, I thought I was documenting a collection of beautifully designed public toilets. By the end, I realized I was really documenting a different way of thinking about public space. Because these toilets aren't successful simply because they're beautiful. They're successful because every part of the experience has been considered. The architecture builds trust, the maintenance keeps that trust, accessibility makes everyone feel welcome. Even the experimental projects ask a simple question: how can an everyday building serve people a little better? We often judge cities by their skylines, their museums, their stadiums, their famous landmarks. Those buildings tells us what a city wants the world to see. Public toilets tells a different story. They reveal how a city treats the spaces everyone uses every single day. Maybe that's the real lesson behind the Tokyo Toilet Project. Good cities aren't defined only by their biggest buildings. They're defined by the care they put into smallest one. And maybe that's why Japanese public toilets feel so different. It's not because they're toilets. It's because they're treated like architecture. Not architecture that's meant to be admired from a distance. Architecture that's meant to quietly improve everyday life. If you're planning to visit Tokyo, I've linked the map I've used to visit all 17 toilets in the description below. I also highly recommend this book. Along with the photograph, it includes the original sketches, technical drawings, and the design process behind each project. It's a fascinating look at how much thought went into the seemingly ordinary buildings. And if you enjoy exploring architecture, design, and the way building shapes our experience of cities, consider subscribing. I would love to share more projects like this with you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.